As people are trickling in, I'll introduce myself. My name is Nadia Nincevic. I'm the Vice President at CUTRIC, and we thank you all for joining us today at our Repowering webinar that we're calling Revitalizing Public Transportation, Extending Diesel Bus Life with Electric and Hydrogen Battery Repowering. Next slide. This webinar is being hosted by CUTRIC, and I'm going to begin by giving our land acknowledgement. So CUTRIC, we do act beyond our land acknowledgement, but I will say today that the land I am on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. CUTRIC has an extensive gender and racial diversity policy, which I do urge you to visit on our website. We also support Indigenous-led businesses. We support ongoing research and federal investment into the exploration, investigation, and analysis of missing and murdered Indigenous persons and their marked graves. We strive to make Canada a greener place and support climate change initiatives. I'll also move on. For those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, we are using a Zoom platform. And so just some Zoom and feed loop housekeeping is how you've registered for this event. You are all on mute, and we do not have your video enabled just because this is a webinar. There are some functionalities that you'll see in order to correspond with the presenters. And mainly that will be through the Q&A button. It's not showing on this screen, but if you hover to the bottom, you should see the Q&A icon. But you can also put your questions in chat. You're able to also initiate a live transcript and then provide any type of reactions as you so wish. So we'll just get started, just to give you a little bit of an overview of who CUTRIC is. So we are a consortium of transportation innovation leaders. We were first founded in 2015 by our president, Josipa Petrunic, who's our president and CEO. We have more than 130 members divided in 8 categories, and our operations span across Canada, BC, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. Our work focuses on expediting the commercial readiness of low carbon and smart mobility solutions. The vision of CUTRIC is quite simple. We want to make Canada a global leader in low carbon smart mobility technology innovation across light duty and heavy duty platforms. This includes advanced transit transportation and integrated mobility applications. And how will we achieve this? Well, our mission is also not as simple, but it really is to support the commercialization of these technologies through industry-led collaborative research, development, demonstration, and integration projects that bring innovative design to Canada's low-carbon smart mobility ecosystem. We have 3 main areas of activity. Our core business is around commercialization projects, where we design, develop, and manage projects and trials over long-term periods. We also seek funding and financing to support procurement and these projects. We also accomplish data collection, consultations, and asset performance analysis for battery electric buses and fuel cell electric buses, as well as smart vehicles. Our second area of focus is around research and consulting. We offer a full suite of services that we'll obviously share with you some of our information through our website if you are looking for more information. And we're also a member-based association, so we offer membership, which my colleague Majdi will be getting into in just a couple of minutes before we start the presentation. We are also all over the place when it comes to LinkedIn. We have a number of website users that are accessing our site monthly with excellent amounts of clicks and previews. We also host a number of events where we have over 300 plus attendees. And we also have a newsletter, which we urge you to subscribe to if you have not already. With respect to our commercialization projects, as I mentioned before, we design, develop, and manage these projects. And we also are running 4 concurrently, which are the Pan-Canadian Electric Bus Demonstration and Integration Trial, the Pan-Canadian Hydrogen Fuel Cell Electric Bus Demonstration and Integration Trial, the National Smart Vehicle Demonstration Project, and the ACES Big Data Trust. Well, I don't want to take away from Garrett and Tony's presentation time today. I'll be passing the mic over shortly, as I mentioned, to our Business Development and Membership Engagement Officer, Majdi, who'll provide you a little bit more of a brief overview on membership and what these mean. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our upcoming conference. You may have seen, if you're on our mailing list, some outreach emails and advertisement for our 5th annual ZETM conference that's taking place October 17th and 18th at the Burlington Convention Center in Burlington, Ontario. We're super excited to bring together transit industry experts, policymakers, and thought leaders to discuss the latest technologies, as well as opportunities, challenges, and solutions for the transition of Canadians' public transport sector. The conference is going to feature approximately 30 speakers over 2 days, and we expect to attract over 200 attendees. Because we're less than 30 days away, we are 80% sold out, and we currently have over, I think it was 35 transit agencies registered across Canada to attend. So I urge you to take a look. I'm just going to be dropping the links in here shortly so that you can take a look at that. That's great. Thanks so much for sharing the video. Just a couple of quick slides. We do have, as I mentioned, it spans over 2 days with some very interesting panels, fireside chats. That's a very good cross-section of our members, non-members, stakeholders that are obviously working towards the advancement of zero emission technologies. And so we urge you to, we will be sharing this presentation after, so we urge you to take a look at our panels, and I also posted the agenda. So I will actually turn this now over to Majdi for some input into our membership information. Majdi?
Thank you, Nadia. Hello, everyone. We're really excited to have you today. First of all, I hope you enjoy this webinar. The topic is very exciting. And let me just introduce myself quickly. My name is Majdi El-Sariq. I'm Business Development and Membership Engagement Officer here at CUTRIC. And I hope after this webinar that you basically consider joining CUTRIC. First of all, we run similar webinars throughout the year. So this is one of a few, and this is open to the public. But once you become a member, we have members exclusive committees. That's usually every other month. And some of the topics are much more deeper, and some of them are considered to be very exclusive and not shared beyond OEM or industry experts. We also engage our members with request for information or proposal. So there's always potential to participate in some commercialization or commercial activities with CUTRIC. We also, on your behalf, would try to develop our plans when it comes to government relationship. We try to advance the agenda of our members collectively. Besides some of these engagement platforms, membership offer you knowledge sharing. So we do have knowledge series and a number of reports. We also issue RFI for participation in commercialization project. Right now, CUTRIC has a number of projects. 2 of them are focused on battery electric buses and hydrogen fuel cell. Besides that, we work with our consultant service, and often we do subcontract some of these services to our members, especially if our team are really busy. Back to you, Nadia.
Thanks, Majdi. So what everyone has been waiting for, today's Repowering webinar is the first of a series of ongoing regular webinars that CUTRIC will be hosting over the next year and into the following year as well. This webinar in particular will introduce our attendees to repowering and discuss the benefits and overcoming challenges associated with their fleets and other technologies. If you are new to repowering as an option for your fleet, or you've been itching just to ask your questions about this technology, we're so happy you've chosen to attend, and we welcome you to this webinar on behalf of CUTRIC and the presenters, Gara and Tony. Note that this presentation, as I mentioned, will be shared via your registration email that was provided. And so now I am going to introduce Gara Hay, President, MTB Transit Solutions, and Tony D'Alessandro, Director, Transit Services from the town of Milton. Over to you, Gara.
Great, thanks, Nadia. Let me just share my screen. Can everybody see that? Are we good?
Looks good, Gara, thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on today. Before I start, I want to, first of all, thank CUTRIC for putting on this great webinar today. Really appreciate your support. Thank you to all the attendees, and a special thank you to Tony D'Alessandro from Milton Transit, who's joining us today. So we have a quick, innovative and informative presentation for you today. Then we'll have some questions at the end. So our goal today is to provide you with some information and ideas on when you start thinking about repowering your buses. And my goal is, by the end of this presentation, is that hopefully we've answered some of the questions and maybe some of the thoughts you may have on repowering. So hopefully by the end, we're gonna help you think about that. There is an option to helping you achieve your GHG emission reduction goals sooner. This program will help you maximize the use and life of your existing fleets. You'll make efficient use of scarce financial resources. We know how much resources are scarce these days, so this is a good use of your funds. You're going to reduce the operational costs on your existing diesel fleet. You're going to avoid any future mechanical overhauls of your current fleet, and then there's also some terrific funding and financing options. So for the presentation today, we have it broken down into 3 areas. I'll first introduce you to MTB and to ZEV Clean Power. Many of you on this call may have already seen our presentations on ZEV, and if you have, thank you for coming back. We do have some really terrific updates to give you. If you haven't seen this presentation before and you're a transit operator, hopefully you're going to really see some really unique and great opportunity to help you with your decarbonization plans. Tony D'Alessandro from Milton Transit will come on and introduce himself and Milton Transit, and then I'll circle back after that and talk to you about the program, the ZEV Clean Power repowering program that MTB and Milton Transit are working together, give you an update on that, and then we'll have a Q&A after that. So on the MTB side, I know many of you on this call, operators, have probably been customers or have worked with MTB in the past, but I'll give you a quick overview of who we are. We're based in Milton, Ontario. We've been around since the mid-70s. All we do are buses. We do transit and coach buses. We've worked on roughly 25,000 buses in our history. We have seen every make, model, and every issue possibly that could have happened on a bus over the years. We have a very skilled workforce. These are 310T mechanics, 310S mechanics, 310B bodymen, welders, painters. We have a very, very strong and experienced staff at our shop in Milton. It's a big facility. Many of you have been to our shop, but it's 110,000 square feet, 2 buildings. We have 60 bays. This would be the largest non-transit bus repair facility in Canada and one of the largest in North America. And we're also an ISO 9001 certified company. So back about 5 years ago, when we started thinking of doing strategic planning, we knew that the buses that we've been working on for years, diesel buses that we've been working on for years, are going to start coming in the future, maybe not as diesel. They may start coming in as battery electric. They may start coming in as hydrogen. And we needed to be prepared for that. So when we were doing our refurbishment or our repairs on buses, we had to be aware of the new technology and the new propulsion. So we had to equip our staff with the proper tools and training and equip our facility with the proper equipment so that we could service our customers as we always have. But we decided to take it one step further, and we came up with an idea on how we could help our customers with their decarbonization plan. So we developed a program called ZEV Clean Power. And what ZEV is, it takes a diesel bus and converts it to battery electric. So to prove out that concept to ourselves and to the market, we took a bus. We had a 2005 New Flyer. It was a former Hamilton Street Railway car that we had in stock, and we said, let's take that diesel bus and see if we can convert that over to battery electric. We built out the supply chain. First of all, we went out to the government and said, is anybody, is the government interested in supporting on this? And we had a very willing partner in the National Research Council who supported us financially on this conversion test with their IRAP fund. So after a while, COVID kind of threw us for a little bit of a wrench, but at the end, we now have produced this bus, as you see on the right. It is now working. You may have seen it at some of the recent trade shows. Many transit operators, and especially in Ontario, have taken test drives on this bus. So we were able to prove out the concept, build our supply chain, and now we're ready to go to market with this as an option to transit operators. Here's some just closer pictures of that bus. And remember, this is about an 18-year-old bus that we converted. As you see up in the top right-hand corner, this bus that we did is a in depot. Our future editions of our Repower, we can do both side in depot charging. We can also do pantograph charging. And you can see by the pictures, and if you've seen this bus, it looks, it acts, it drives, it feels exactly like a new electric bus. It's very quiet, and the performance is excellent. So one thing, if you repower your bus, you're going to have very similar performance and very similar outcomes that you would have in comparison to a brand new electric bus. I have a quick video here. Just this will give you a good overview of the program. It's about a minute video.
Sorry, Gar. Nadia, go ahead.
Gar, sorry, just you've got I think it's your Zoom bar that's blocking the top. Could you try to move the Zoom bar? We can see your presentation, it's just cutting some of the top off.
Okay, how do I do that?
Najee, if he moves it, yeah.
You should be able to either drag it or hide. There should be a button if you hover over it to say hide.
Yeah, I don't see that. How's that?
No. Almost. Now it's moved.
Oh, it's better now.
It's better. There's
Okay.
still a little block, but
Okay. Thank you. I'll continue. So, that hopefully that video gave you a quick overview of the program. Here's a little bit more detail. This is about a 30,000 foot level of what we actually do on the Repower program. So on the left side, it's the diesel bus that comes into our facility. And often the bus is structurally very sound. It's just emitting GHG emissions. So what we do on the left is we first off we do is weigh the bus. Then we remove the diesel components. So out comes that Cummins engine, out comes the transmission, out comes the fuel tank, out comes the radiator. And then we reweigh that bus again. So now we know what our delta is on the weight. Then we repower it. So on the right side, we then we put in a traction motor, we put in a drive shaft, we put batteries around the entire bus, new electric steering. And then so now that bus, after about a 6-month period, again, comes in as a diesel bus. leaves the exact same bus, but as electric power driven. So, and again, this will take about 6 months. We have a presentation that has much more details of exactly what components are coming out and what components are going in. We'd love to share that with anybody interested. Just a little stuck on my presentation here. I don't want to get very specific on the technical aspects. Again, we have a much more detailed presentation, but we get a lot of questions about the motor system and the battery. So our batteries that we're using are lithium ion. The range we have on the bus currently is around 220 to 290 kilometers. Of course, that will vary depending on driver ability. It'll vary on weather. It'll vary on topography of your routes. The current bus option that we have has 380 kilowatts of batteries. We expect our next version to be at over 400 kilowatts with battery performance improving. These are at a 0.5 C rated batteries, so they could charge in 2 hours, depending on the charging infrastructure you have. The motor is a TM4 Sumo 280. It's the very similar motor that's used in many transit buses and heavy truck units around North America. It's a very solid machinery from TM4. We also use all their inverters. It's a great motor. On the charging compatibility, and that's another question we're asked a lot, is you don't need a specific unique charger for our system. It's compatible. It's CCS1 type 1 compatible. It's J1772. So if you already have a Siemens or an ABB or maybe a charge point charger in your infrastructure, this will work. This will be compatible. It's fast charge compatible. As I said earlier, it's rated at 0.5 C. So let's say you had a 190 kilowatt charger, you could charge this bus in 2 hours. Most operating maybe with a 50 or 100 kilowatt charger, you'll get it charged in say 4 to 6 hours. It's got a thermal system, so it preheats the batteries, especially in the cold environments, and it's pretty unique. It's got a little 20 kilowatt AC charger on board to charge some of the low power functionality, but also if you ever get stranded and you need to just do a quick plug-in to maybe get back to base, it's equipped with that. We're not an engineering company, so we work with one of the top engineering companies in Canada called IVI. They are based in North of Montreal in Saint-Jérôme. They've done all the engineering for this project and for the Milton project. You may have known they cut their teeth with Lion Electric on some of their first school buses, and then with Nova Bus on their first conversion, on their first diesel to electric program. So a very knowledgeable crew, they do excellent work, and we've been partnering with them since the start of this project. You know, on the financing and funding, you know, one thing when we do a presentation, we show a very good ROI on this project. It's very strong ROI. So the cost to do the repowering is more than covered on your savings on maintenance and fuel. But on top of that, there's some really good financing and funding options available. So on the ZETF funding through Infrastructure Canada, repowering is an option. So if you do get funding from ZETF, you know, you can use it to buy new buses, you can use it to work in your facility, but you can also use it for repowering. The wording is actually in the document. Same with the CIB. If you're going to go financing through the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, you can use those dollars for repowering. And then with many municipalities work through the FCM, the Municipality Association, they have a Green Municipal Fund that can provide funding for pilot projects such as this. And if you're a smaller municipality, you can get up to 80% coverage. So, and most of these are stackable when you're looking at your economics on our program. So, so repowering is available for all of these programs. If you're a smaller, especially if you're a smaller transit operator and you may not have the infrastructure or the personnel in your team, we can help. We can help you with charger procurement, installment, and ongoing maintenance. We can work with some of our partners on power grid management, route analysis, and we can train your staff and train your first responders. So if you feel like you haven't been making a lot of headway and you need some support to get you over the finish line, we can help you get there. So my last slide on our program is just some of the benefits of repowering. So, you know, how we look at this model, how we look at this program is if you're a medium or large size transit operator and you're well established on your decarbonization plan, we think this will complement your program. So as you're buying new electric or hydrogen buses to replace your older diesel buses. You're going to continue to do that, obviously. What we can do is we can come in and clean up some of the older buses that still have structurally are still very sound and they still have a lot of life in them. We'll come in and we can repower those buses while you're doing your procurement on the front end, and this will help you get your GHG reduction goals sooner. Maybe if you're a smaller agency and you still haven't taken that first step yet, we can help you. This could be your first bus to introduce you into your fleet, and Tony will talk to you about in a minute about how Milton looked at this program to help them get there. This is a quick turnaround. We know that procurement is strained right now on getting deliveries. We can complete a conversion in 6 months. One of the great things is we maintain the gross vehicle weight and the curb weight of your vehicle. So there's no change to seating, no change to layout, and no change to capacity of your riders. We feel this is for the supply chain. We feel there's a lot of benefits. So, you know, you're going to give us, say, a Nova New Flyer bus, and we're going to give you that same bus back. So for parts, for your maintenance team, they're used to working on these buses. For your drivers, especially, they're going to get it back in this bus, and it's going to feel and look the exact same as always. The controls, the functionality of the bus is the exact same. It's just going to be cleaner and quieter. So we feel that the transition from a current diesel bus to this new electric powered bus, again, because we're giving you that same unit back, just better, the transition is going to be very smooth. Again, I mentioned earlier, up to 100% of the capital you're going to pay in a repower is going to be returned to you in lower operating costs. We have a great model that we can show you on how that looks. And then I just showed you that there's some really good funding available through Infrastructure Canada and Infrastructure Bank Canada. So I'll stop there. I'd like to introduce now Tony D'Alessandro. So Tony will walk you through Milton Transit and some of the work that he's doing on his decarbonization plan. Over to you, Tony.
Thank you, Gareth. So my name is Tony D'Alessandro. I'm the Director of Transit Services for the town of Milton. During my portion of this presentation, I'll first provide a brief background of the town of Milton and a little bit of Milton Transit. I will then outline our decarbonization strategy and how this repower conversion with MTB Transit Solutions came to be. So very quickly, Milton is located in the western part of the GTA. We're facing rapid growth and development pressure with a current population of over 142,000, projected to be well over 170,000 by 2026. Our resident composition is quite diverse and young. And Milton is comprised of a large urban and rural environment, which brings about some unique program delivery changes. Next slide. While Milton Transit provided limited transit services in the 1990s and early 2000s, it wasn't really until 2004 when we launched our fixed route service. All transit services are contracted, and we use a third-party service provider and a contractor lease facility to house our 37 town-owned transit fleet of mixed sizes. Our system is a maturing system. We're seeing a higher local trip demand compared to long-distance commuters, which is a new and exciting thing for us. And this has primarily been driven by our youth and employment market. We use a family of services delivery approach, which allows us to align different fleet types with alternative service delivery models. And of course, we manage all of this, the entire system, with a very small but effective administration comprised of 3 FTEs. Next slide. So really our approach to sustainability included corporate and community engaged in energy plans, and a council declaration of a climate emergency in 2019. More recently, council approved our corporate strategic plan through 2027, which definitely include a number of transit initiatives, such as building our very own town-owned transit garage facility, completing a 5-year service plan and master plan update. And then the 2 key pieces of this related to sustainability and decarbonization: the development of a battery electric bus feasibility study, and of course our diesel to electric midlife conversion pilot project. Next slide. Our BEB feasibility study, just to give a little bit of a background on that, is currently in development, but ultimately this study will give us the guidance to help inform the procurement of electric buses and associated charging infrastructure, and will outline any policies, plans, and targets that will influence the timeline towards our ability to transition the entire fleet. The scope of this study includes route modeling and scheduling optimization, facility assessment, and providing a full fleet electrification transition plan. We are anticipating this study to be complete by the end of the year. Next slide. So really, this is kind of the nuts and bolts of my presentation, and related to this topic is okay. So why are we undertaking this project with MTB Transit Solutions? I think for one, it does complement some of our policy work through our corporate strategy, as well as some of the preliminary recommendations we're seeing through our battery electric bus feasibility study. And it gives us real world exploration and evaluation of things such as the technology capabilities, the limitations, service delivery implications, training, maintenance, and ultimately life cycle costing. The pilot is fairly low risk to the town. We are using one vehicle that was scheduled for midlife refurbishment anyway. So there was the timing and some resources that were already available. There was also a corporate and political desire to trailblaze green technology for transit, in addition to some of the other initiatives that the corporation is already doing and have in place, such as the procurement of electric ice resurfacers for our arenas. Identifying this as a pilot project also allows us to test the viability of the technology. Does it work? Does it not work? And would help define a business case for long-term application where it is actually successful. For us, with a small administration, a turnkey solution with aftermarket support from MTB Transit Solutions, which happens to be locally situated at the town of Milton, and being the sole Canadian supplier of this technology to date, at least, narrows our ability to have significant or narrows the knowledge gap that we currently have with battery electric buses and the whole electrification initiatives. Last but not least, of course, this solution has a shorter production lead time, as Garrett mentioned, versus procuring a new asset, which allows us to move quickly in pilot development. Next slide. So some of our pilot objectives, are really quite simple. We want to evaluate the potential of this approach as a mechanism to advance our fleet transition, evaluate the maintenance, operating, and overall life cycle costs. We want to validate the vehicle performance and reliability in our climate and topography. Although for most of you who probably are familiar with Milton, Milton is relatively flat already, with the exception of the Niagara Escarpment, but we don't provide service out there, so that's okay. The pilot allows us to become familiar with charging infrastructure. We will be collecting public and operator feedback to understand the challenges and any perceptions. Want to understand how BEVs will work and affect scheduling of our transit services. And lastly, but of course, most importantly, this project does align with our sustainability and climate change initiatives to mitigate the reliance on our fossil fuels. Next slide. So my last slide is really in order to achieve council buy-in. We did put together a preliminary business case for the piloting of this technology. We assume that the initial capital investment of this technology had the potential to reach a break-even point at year 12 when comparing to diesel life cycle costs, assuming different or varying different diesel pricing. However, of course, with any pilot, further life cycle evaluation will be completed with actuals upon vehicle implementation, as we anticipate in 2024, which includes fuel and maintenance savings. And so with that, I will pass it back to Garrett to provide further details of the project and timeline.
Oh, great stuff, Tony. Thank you so much. So now I'll bring you an update. So we started this program earlier this year, and I'm going to give you an update on kind of step by step on where we stand today. One of the features that we provide Tony and to anybody who's going to take the Repower program is we give regular updates. So we're providing a monthly update to the customer on showing exactly where we stand on the project. Tony and the town of Milton have done a terrific job. They're also putting together a video library of this step-by-step project or process to get to the final bus product, which he also has that video placed on their website if you'd like to go see. So what I'm going to show you for the next few slides is basically the documentation that's showing the update of the program. So here's the program as an overview. So we're working on, it's a 2017 Nova LFS. That's the bus there on the right. This is a pilot project, and the contract that we work with Tony and the group is a full turnkey solution. So what that is, we're going to repower that bus. We also have procured the charger and are working on and we'll have that charger installed. We're also providing an after installation service and support that will be coming from PowerOn. We're also going to train his maintenance staff, his service technicians, his operators, and first responders in the Milton area on high voltage training. And our projection is we'll have this project done by the end of this year. So how did the update look? So we really got the wheels really turning on this back in April. So in April, you can see some of the visualization. So we brought in the diesel bus. We weighed it to get that first important weight of it as a diesel bus. We started testing the batteries that we had in stock, getting them ready. We started downloading the bus programs from the current diesel bus. And then we started working on the charger installation. And you can see the site that was selected in Milton. So that charger work is starting to happen. Then into May, we started working on the diesel bus. So we removed the powertrain and the diesel components. We brought in a company to do the 3D scanning of the bus to make sure we had all the proper measurements. Now we could weigh that bus because the diesel components have now been removed, and we're ready to now start installing the electric components. By the time we got to June, we started working on the upgrades. So the bus needed a midlife overhaul at the same time. So we started working with Milton on those upgrades. We stripped the bus of the decals and the branding. We started repairing some of the external, some of the repairs on the external part of the bus that needed. Our charger installation procurement started, and we put out an RFP on the charger for the proper charger install. And then IVI started working on the structural scanning of the bus, a proper assessment and weight distribution. So what you see now in this part, you can see where MTV is starting working on the bus, IVI is working on the engineering, and we're working on the charger installation all at the same time to get that program, to get the project moving as quickly as possible. By the time we got to July, IVI has now conducted the very important weight distribution analysis and now complete. They've determined the center of gravity of the bus. Final component placement is being assessed and mounting points are being engineered. The top level system architecture is completed and the system harness and cabling design is underway. So a lot of engineering work really started kicking in July. Also in July, again, while that was going on in Saint-Jérôme, back in Milton, we've now started working on the exterior of the bus repairs. We've now removed all the interior and exterior components. You can see where the seats have been removed, the flooring has been removed. Now we're preparing the interior for updated floor covering, and then we're starting to reupholster the existing passenger seats to get that bus looking excellent for when it's now repowered. Now come to August. We now started to work on that former diesel bus. Now we're starting to, we installed the electric air compressor. We've installed the electric power steering pump. The auxiliary heater has been installed. And now at the same time, we've now finalized our charger and infrastructure for the charger. And we're just getting ready to start putting the plan together to install the charger at the Milton yard. Also in August, same time, IVI has been working on the system architecture is completed and the design is now starting to get completed, and the system harnessing and cable design is now completed. Moving on to September, October. So now in our current months, we're now going to be ready to start placing the batteries and the battery management system on the roof. You can see some of the designs there. These designs will now be transferred from IVI to our team, our technician team here in Milton for proper placement of the batteries and the BMS. And at the same time, we now have engine compartment is going to hold batteries in a BMS system, and the motor drive placement of the drive motor in the engine compartment. The proper placement of that motor. The motor is in stock. We just need the engineering company to give us that exact placement for that motor. That's all happening as we speak. At the same time, we're placing the battery thermal system on the roof, on the rear deck. That's being done right now. And then our charger, so Power On is now, they've already started digging into the facility to have the installation of the charger and the charger infrastructure at the Milton site. So all groups are moving at the same time. You know, one thing that we've seen has been a really great media pickup of this project right around the world, actually. Many of you may have seen the CUTRIC Forum magazine that comes out every quarter. And this project was the lead story in the summer edition. Included a quite extensive article in the document, quotes from myself and from Tony. 4C Power, who is the battery provider, put out a press release that was picked up around the world on our program. Again, a lot of local media, the local FM station in Milton, and possibly many of you get the mass transit email blog every day that comes in. And back in May, this was the lead, or back in April, sorry, this was actually the lead story at Mass Transit of the program we're doing. So if you're a transit operator, maybe think about, you know, if you do a program with us, start thinking that there will be a good media pickup, because this is quite a unique story, and it's a story that local media like to grab. So my last bit is I'd like to show you a video. This was a newscast by CHCH News. And if anybody's maybe not from the Ontario area, CHCH is Hamilton-based channel. It's broadcast across Canada, and they sent a reporter in to do a story on this. Kind of the unique part is the reporter who came, this was her first day on the job, her first story she's ever reported. So I asked her, when I didn't know that, I asked her, how long have you been a reporter? And she told me 3 hours when I met her. So but she did a great job, and we had a lot of people tell us that they saw this. So we'll watch this video, and then we can get into some Q&A.
Something is happening in Milton that's never happened before in Canada. A pilot project aims to convert one of the town's buses from diesel to electric. The town is teaming up with a local Milton bus company to make the conversion happen. Simone Gavros has more on what this change will mean for Milton and its goal towards a cleaner commute.
Bus riders will soon be greeted by an electric bus on the streets of Milton. The town is working with local company MTB Transit Solutions to convert an old diesel bus to an electric one.
Going to be able to tell us a lot about how we could expand our services.
Tony D'Alessandro from Transit Services says the town is pioneering this move, and the conversion process itself is a first in Canada and will help Milton decide if this change should be spread to the entire bus fleet.
Really going to give us a lot of information about, you know, metrics, how much diesel we're saving, how many greenhouse gas emissions reductions we're going to be seeing. What is the maintenance cost going to look like?
D'Alessandro says it will move the city closer to its environmental sustainability goals. Statistics Canada says a quarter of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions come from vehicles like diesel buses. Milton says switching a bus from diesel to electric could cut more than 51,000 kilograms of emissions over 6 years.
We are making steps towards improving sustainability in the town of Milton, and this is one project that will do that.
So we take out the diesel engine, we take out the transmission, we take out the radiator, and replace it with a much smaller electric motor and put batteries placed around the bus.
MTB Transit President Gara Hay says the conversion will take about half a year, and all the resources used are Canadian. When it comes to the rider experience, the electric bus is said to be a much more comfortable ride, with less noise and less vibration. The city expects the total process of the project to cost about $900,000, which factors in charging units, vehicle components, and training.
But we think there's a good market potential to convert other forms of transportation, like a school bus, a mining vehicle, maybe a garbage truck in the future.
The switch will be done by the end of the year, and the bus is expected to hit the road in early 2024. Simone Gavros, CHCH News, Milton.
Okay. That is it.
Gara, excellent presentation. Tony, Gara, thank you very much. We're now in the Q&A portion. I think that video at the end really was an amazing bookend to such a presentation, a comprehensive presentation on repowering. So thank you both very, very much. So we do have a number of questions on the line. So I'm going to go through them methodically, Gara and Tony.
Okay.
So the first one, I know you touched on a little bit about auxiliary heating, but there's a specific question on what does your converted BEV bus use for cabin heating and battery heating for cold weather? A diesel fuel fired heater, electric coolant heater, or something different, heat pump, etc.
Yeah, it'll be diesel heated. As everybody knows, you just can't run the heat off your battery. You'll lose 30, 40, 50% of your charge. So it's a diesel heater, unfortunately. But so what we say on this bus, it's tailpipe emission free, but we can't say it's completely emission free.
Thanks, Gara. And I'll maybe turn this to you both, but are there any Transport Canada safety certifications that need to be obtained or considered for on-road drivability?
Yeah, I'll take that. You know, the key to that is making sure you maintain that gross vehicle weight the same, because the bus has been identified and licensed under that gross vehicle weight. So that's why that gross vehicle weight is so important. At this point, the only requirement is in Ontario is with the MTO, you need to change your fuel on the registration. You change your fuel source from diesel to electricity. But other than that, as long as we don't trip over that GVW, we're okay.
Thanks, Gara. There are a couple of questions that came in, and I'm going to try to combine them. So very interesting question. Which supplier is providing the battery? What are the warranty options? How does this impact your risk or insurance policy and liability, if applicable?
Okay, the battery provider is 4C Power. 4C is one of the leading heavy-duty battery providers in the world. They're based out of France. They have an office in Mississauga. Sorry, what are the other questions? On the warranty side, on the warranty side, there's a 6-year warranty on the batteries. One thing that we do that's interesting on the warranty is that if you have any structural warranty remaining on the bus, MTB will cover that warranty if you have any left. And the thought on that is, let's say you had some warranty left with, say, New Flyer or Nova, and you had a structural issue and you brought that bus back to them, and they probably would not warrant that issue because you've now changed the makeup of that bus. So we will cover that warranty. If you have any warranty claims for the remainder of the warranty, with our facility, we're more than capable of handling that.
Great. And Gara, the next question, we actually talked about this, CUTRIC and MTB, and it's around ROI. You touched on it a little bit with your presentation, but could you talk a little bit about the cost of repurposing a diesel bus to a BEV compared with buying a new BEV? So basically, we'd like to understand, the ROI to convert utilizing your technology. Can you dig into it a little bit more for the audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the cost is a little tricky because depending on the spec. So depending on the type of bus we're going to be repowering, depending on the amount of batteries that are going to be going on the bus, the price will fluctuate. I think the best target to look at it's coming in at about half the price of a new electric bus in comparison. So you can kind of do the math from there. On the ROI, as I said in the presentation, I really encourage, if you haven't seen our full presentation, I really encourage you to reach out to us because we spend time going through modeling on your current costing method of running a 12 or 18-year life diesel bus. And then we look at, if we repower, what does that costing model look like compared to diesel? And it's quite amazing when you look at the savings from, obviously the fuel is cheaper, the maintenance is lower. And there's the diesel cost allowance from the government is out there right now. So it's a very, very strong ROI message that we give, and that is before any funding or financing is available.
Tony, did you want to chime in on that, just on your perspective?
Yeah, I'll add that. I'll add some too. And a lot of this information that I provided in my presentation is publicly available through the Town of Milton website. So I'm just going to repeat what's already in there. But we did do some preliminary analysis and some broad, Class D order of magnitude assumptions to get an idea that depending on the price of diesel, we are anticipating reaching a break-even point. Depending on what you're including in those costs of the initial investment, in and around year 12, and there is the possibility that this vehicle could extend beyond year 12, especially if the battery is still in a state where it can be used. So I think from our perspective, I think the number one goal for us was mainly to achieve and to push forward our sustainability goals and to reduce our GHGs, and I think that's the main purpose. But also we really wanted to make sure that it was a smart decision around on the economic side, and we did see some of that through our business case analysis.
Thanks, very comprehensive answer. Another question actually is around funding. So again, I could direct it to you both, but aside from the 3 funding programs, maybe Gara, you can take this one to begin with, unless Tony, you have something else to chime in on. But aside from those 3 funding programs you presented, are there any other funding programs you work with?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with the Green Freight Program, which really is more for fleets, not for transits. The National Research Council, IRAP, is open for more funding. So you may be able to go back to them in conjunction with MTB to look at funding if it's something a little unique from what we did on the demo bus. So, and where I'm kind of going with that is possibly on a hydrogen repower. So a hydrogen repower has never been done in Canada on a transit bus. So if we were to take that idea to the National Research Council, we may be able to get some funding for that. But Nadia, I think between ZETF and CIB and FCM, there is a lot of funding.
Pretty comprehensive.
Available. Yeah, it is. And again, and like I said, there's stackability options there. You can stack on top of each other. It can get you can really blow those economics through the door with some of that.
Thanks, Gara. So I have a comment here and then a question, so you can address this. So we have someone asking, the conversion currently takes 6 months. Do you see this timeline coming down anytime soon?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do. And, just because of the dynamic of our shop, and generally with any project in a shop, the first few projects aren't as quick as future projects, because you start to get in a rhythm, you start to get a cadence going on in the project. So, we think 6 months is the absolute longest it will take. We feel really confident we'll be able to get that down as we do more projects or more conversions in the future.
And Gara, what would you say is the ideal age of a bus for a conversion?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, we can repower any age. We feel the best age is around a year 5 or 6 bus. And the reason for that is really twofold. One, most transits do a diesel engine reman around year 5 or 6. So if you're going to do this, try to get it in before you spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on a reman of your diesel engine. It'd be a waste to do that and then yank that engine out a year or 2 later. So let's try to get it in before that first reman. And 2, you want to have as much runway left of life in that bus to really show the financial payback. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to do it at year 5 and have 12 or 13 more years of life left, the savings on using electricity versus diesel really start to compound as that bus gets older. If you have 12 or 13 years, the economics look so much better. We could do the repower at year 8, 10, 12. We can do it whenever but let's say we did it at year 10. You're going to only have maybe 7 or 8 years of lower operating costs to help with that payback. So we're very flexible on when you can do it, but we think the sweet spot is before that first diesel reman that everybody really schedules.
Yeah. And I would, I would agree to that. I think that's the approach that the town of Milton took. We had a budget for a midlife engine transmission, the kind of process in year 6, and so we kind of repurposed that budget, added some to that to do this type of reconversion.
Thank you. I just have a couple of other questions, or maybe some bolt-ons for previous questions that now we're getting a lot of activity on the Q&A. So just back to the heating, the consumption rate, kilowatt hour per kilometer. Can we expect, considering diesel heating? So what's the consumption rate? And also, are you able to disclose the make of the diesel fuel fired heater?
Yeah, it's a Spheros heater that we use, and I think the best thing to do is again, we have much more detailed performance in our presentation. I don't have those numbers right at the top of my head right now, but I think the best thing to do would be to reach out and book a presentation with us, and we'll walk through all of those metrics in our presentation. It's the one thing about our presentation, hopefully Tony maybe can attest to this, it's heavy on technical and it's heavy on financial. So we dive deep into the components that are going to be coming out and components going in. We dig deep into the expected performance of those components, and we dig deep into the financial outcome of this project.
Great. I have a question here. So related to a previous question, I believe around the battery and the warranty options. So there's a question for Milton Transit. How does this impact your risk or insurance policy and liability, if applicable? And we touched on it a little bit, but if you could expand, Tony. And is there warranty on all components for 6 years or just the battery? Do you have a ballpark on costs on both repower and warranty?
So I'll take the insurance one, and maybe Kara can add that. So the insurance one, so we did do a check with our insurers. I think it's a little bit unique for the town of Milton because we do have a third-party service provider that requires the retention of insurance on their end. But from a risk and liability perspective, there was no cause for concern at this time. So from that end, we were okay. Garrett, did you want to take the last? Because I know that we've worked with MTB to establish warranties on not just the battery itself, but on several other components. So I'll let Garrett kind of speak maybe to that.
Yeah, sure, Tony. Thanks. Yeah, so again, it's 6 years on the batteries. It's 3 years on the traction motor and inverters. And then again, we assume that any remaining warranty on the structure. Again, on our presentation, we have a whole section on warranties and commitments that we provide.
Perfect. Did you have to make any structural enhancements to support the weight of the portion of batteries which are mounted on the roof?
It's interesting, Nadia, that these buses that come out of especially the newer ones out of New Flyer and Nova, for example, and also in the US with Gillig, most of the frames are made for whether it be a diesel bus, an electric bus, or a hydrogen bus. So and the buses are so well built that they're structurally very sound to be able, and they're prepared to take on these, say, a hydrogen tanks or batteries. But one of the key outcomes of working with IBI and the engineering group is all of those weight studies. That is the absolute priority for them, is to make sure that the weight is the bus is able to handle the weight. It's placed on the bus accordingly to have the right balancing of the weight. And this project doesn't get complete until that engineering group signs off on their acceptance from an engineering standpoint.
Okay, and we just have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to try to get through 2 questions, Gara, here. So what challenges are you facing regarding skilled workers for this work? So I'm going to pose it to both. This person would be curious to hear about the skilled labor that supports this repower, and are there any gaps needed in skill sets or issues in the supply of skilled labor?
Yeah, I'll start. Yes, I mean, it's, one thing that I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing, possibly, and what we're experiencing, is there's just not a lot of training out there for companies on high voltage training and proper PPE. So that's been a priority for us. So we're working with Centennial College, who I think probably most people in Ontario would know. They're probably the leading 310T heavy duty mechanical training school in Ontario and probably in Canada. So we're working closely with them to make sure that our staff are well trained. We're not letting our staff work on this product unless they have the proper training, they have the proper PPE. And then we're also transferring that knowledge and that skill over to Milton Transit to make sure that when we deliver that bus to Tony, his staff, his operators, and very importantly, as the first responders in Milton are all properly trained on this high voltage product. On the skill or the staff availability, I mean, we're lucky. We run very low turnover in our staff, and you know, it's been amazing the transition, because most of our mechanics that have been working on diesel, some of them for 30 or 40 years, are very excited about this new transition, especially the younger mechanics that we have on board. They're very excited that as a company, we're going to not just be kind of in the olden days, just, you know, wrenches on diesel. We're also providing them with the ability to work on the future. They're working, you know, instead of pulling out the wrench, they're opening up their laptop. And they're very excited that this future of our company, that we're going to be on this new technology.
And I would add to that, you know, as part of our due diligence process to ensure that, you know, the project could be approved and you know, satisfied through council budgets and things like that. We wanted to make sure that MTB has that backbone of training staff that can deliver a project, and we're able to kind of come to a consensus that yes, that was the case. I think from our perspective, you know, we have worked closely with our service provider and a contract staff and our facilities team at the town where the charger will be located, you know, to kind of make sure that we have the staff in place to kind of go to those trainings and learn about this technology. I also highlighted in my presentation really quick that there is a little bit of a knowledge gap for us. We're a small team in Milton Transit, and so we have retained some project management support through HDR and will help us kind of measure the performance of the vehicle in due time.
Well, I think that about does it. Unfortunately, my goodness, we could probably spend another hour talking about this. I wanted to just maybe one last comments, if there's any comment from Gara or Tony that you wanted to make before we close down the webinar.
Tony, go ahead, Tony.
No, I'm good. I just want to, thank everyone for their interest and participation. I'm happy to try to answer any questions and emails that come out when you sleep on it tonight or when you think about it over time. We can do our best. We're learning as well too, and so we're happy to kind of share our experience over time. So we look forward to working with everyone.
Thanks, Tony. And from our side, again, thanks everybody for coming on. And please, I encourage you to reach out if you'd like to have further discussion with us, and we'd love, if we haven't had a formal presentation with you, please give us a call, and we'd love to reach out. And thank you once again to CUTRIC. This was terrific. Thank you.
And thank you both. And we've included Tony and Gara's emails in the chat. You will also all be getting a copy of the presentation, which will have all the wonderful information. And Gara, we have some notes of people who are looking to get the additional information from your other presentation that you referenced. And so we'll be sharing that with you also, Gara.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, guys.